The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Kelly Olson. I am back. You are Comfortably Zoned with me, Ralph Zig Tycho in Alameda, the Zig Zag Man, and I'm happy to be here. The circumstances aren't all that great, but I am happy to have the A's maven, Jerry Feitelberg, with me. And we're going to get right to it. A history of what led to this, and is it final?
Well, thank you, Ralph. Thank you for having me. And that's a good opening question. Is it final? It's looking like it is final. The city of Oakland, the mayor of the city of Oakland has indicated that the city has terminated negotiations with the A's over the Howard Terminal site. She feels that the A's weren't weren't negotiating in good faith with the city, that they were using the city to gain leverage with their move to Las Vegas, which may in fact be true, but we'll never know. We can't get the story from the A's. But what transpired all this is the fact that last night the A's announced that they had purchased 49 acres in Las Vegas, just off the Strip, near the New York facility on the Strip, across the street actually, near the Tropicana hotel site. Well, I think they're going to get an additional 50 acres to bring up to 100 acres for the site. So they're looking for money from the city of Las Vegas to help with infrastructure costs too.
Oh, see, that's a big stumbling point for some people. I spoke with Jeff Coleman today from our network and did a podcast earlier with him. He lives in Las Vegas, and he desperately wants a baseball team, but to paraphrase him a little bit, at what price glory for Las Vegas?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, as you recall, when the Raiders were negotiating with Nevada to build a stadium, they were partnering with Sheldon Adelson, who was alive at the time. And they wanted Adelson to pony up $750 million to help build the stadium. Well, Adelson, sure, but I want a piece of the action. I'm not going to give you $750 million and just say, wave at you and say, hope you can enjoy my money. And what am I going to get for my money? And the Raiders said nothing. So Adelson pulled out of the deal, and then they went to the Nevada legislature, the governor at the time, and they got $750 million of public money by raising the hotel tax in Las Vegas to fund it. So that's how the Raiders got their stadium built, which is Allegiant Stadium, which is probably a little over $1 billion, a covered stadium. And the A's want to build $1.5 billion baseball-only stadium down there. And what we understand from the later reporting was the additional 49 or 50 acres to bring it up to 100. They would be developing other things like business and retail, that type of thing, which they had planned at the Howard Terminal. Whether or not that's true or they're only going to get to build the stadium remains to be seen. But they want to start construction next year if they get this deal through. So it's up to the mayor.
That answers the stadium question. In our shows for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been talking about Vegas and the possibility, but they have a AAA club, a AAA stadium. naturally, a AAA franchise. Is the new stadium proposal domed?
It is domed. Yes, it will be domed, partially, from what I understand. Whatever that means. In the summertime in Las Vegas, if the temperatures, it gets up to 110, 115 degrees every day.
That's my point. They're going to have some alleviation from the heat.
They're going to have to, because if you're playing a game at 115 degree temperature in the afternoon, you're going to have players get dehydrated, cramping, all kinds of problems. So they got to have it air conditioned, and so I think it will be. They'll have a dome they got to have a dome to air condition. Whether it's fully domed or partially domed, I don't know. We're not engineers. But they got to have
right.
They got to do something to offset the terrible heat that's in that town. I would imagine it'd be something like they have in Phoenix.
Okay, that makes sense. Will it be retractable at all, or
probably?
As you say, okay.
Probably.
As you say, we're no engineers, and they're making changes in ballparks that we wouldn't have imagined. Here's a question I haven't asked you ever. What would have been the possibility of the Giants and A's sharing a ballpark in San Francisco? Already built. Giants on the road, the A's play, that sort of thing. In answer to all of the bad economy and the way that Oakland and the county of Oakland handles stuff. They've lost 2 franchises in the last 5 years. So you can't count, not saying that the A's don't negotiate in good faith. We haven't even seen the owner of the baseball team. How long has it been since he's had the team?
I believe he bought the team in 2005, and I've never seen him there. I did see Lou Wolf several times, and I took a picture of Lou Wolf with Ron Washington, I think, either at the start of the 2017 season or 16, one of those years. Because Wolf left, I think, after 2016. He sold his 10% interest. You asked the question, what were the chances of the Giants having the A's play in the ballpark? You would think
have they ever presented it?
That has been discussed, and the Giants want no part of the A's. They do not want to share the stadium with the A's at all. They want as far as the Giants are concerned, the sooner the A's leave, the better. That's their attitude. They don't want the A's in the area. They could have made accommodations to the A's in San Jose. When the Giants got the territorial clause that said that they could stay, that the Giants could own that area, and the Giants were trying to get that when Bob Lurie was the owner, and he wanted to move the team from San Francisco down to San Jose because Candlestick Park was terrible. And so Walter Haas, who was the owner of the A's at the time, and he knew Bob Lurie, and they were friends. He said, "We don't have a problem if you want to go down. Get it from Major League Baseball, and it's yours." Well, the Giants never used that option to go down to San Jose. They built their own stadium in San Francisco, and that was totally privately funded. Not a dime of city money went to build that facility, and the Giants have paid it off. They had a 20-year mortgage. They paid it off. It's been very, very successful for them. And the A's were hoping to duplicate it by building a waterfront property on the estuary in Oakland, and it just couldn't get off the ground. They tried to go move to San Jose. and they had lawsuits, and the Giants prevailed. They have the territorial, they own the territorial rights to San Jose, and they were not willing to give them up, even to the A's, and even though they had their own facility, because the Giants knew or know where their customers come from. Their fans come from the peninsula. It goes all the way from San Francisco all the way down to San Jose. Caltrain runs. It's easy for people down in San Jose to take Caltrain up to San Francisco, drops them off a block from the ballpark, and it's a short walk over to the park. And so it's for people living down in the South Bay, it's easy to get to them. The A's, on the other hand, they do have extensions now from San Jose to Oakland on BART. Their fans can come over, and 880 is easy for the people from San Jose to come up to drive up to San Jose to Oakland. And the current location in East Oakland, the infrastructure was all there. BART had a stop there. Caltrain, I think Amtrak had a stop there also nearby. Transportation was available. It was easy off the freeway, easy access off the freeway from north or south. People from Marin could come over the Richmond Bridge and come down and go to the ballpark. It was easier for the people from that area coming down to get to the Coliseum rather than going to Oracle Park in San Francisco. So, and they had plenty of space for parking. And the Major League Baseball and the A's could have rebuilt the stadium right next door, like they did with Yankee Stadium, like they did with Citi Field in New York, right next to Shea Stadium, where it was.
Tear it down, and build it right in the parking lot. Is
Absolutely.
what you do.
Absolutely, that's what they could have done. But
as
Major
you
League
say,
did
the
not.
infrastructure is there. And I don't understand why common sense. You can't tell you how much is involved when you start building from scratch in the Bay Area. And,
it's impossible. But I want to make one point about Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, the Braves moved to Atlanta in 1965. They played in Fulton County Stadium. That's where Hank Aaron broke the record, Babe Ruth's record. But then they built another ballpark, a fairly new ballpark. They were only there about 20 years, and they moved out. That was closer to downtown Atlanta, and they moved out of there back out to the suburbs. The reason for it was it was not the neighborhood that MLB wanted. And I don't want to say that MLB is racist, but the neighborhood in East Oakland is not the best neighborhood in Oakland. And they wanted a better neighborhood. And they did not want to rebuild. They didn't want Major League Baseball to be in the Oakland Coliseum area. For years, for years.
Never heard it expressed that way, Jerry. That makes all the sense.
It could be a factor. As you know, Major League Baseball, the teams do not stay in Oakland. The teams stay in San Francisco, and then are bust over. Most of the teams stay at the Park 55 Hotel in San Francisco. Because there's nothing if there's an off day or the players have time in the morning before they go to the ballpark, they can't go walking around the area. There's nothing there. So I think Major League Baseball said, no, this is not an adequate location. And so
as if walking around San Francisco these days is a real pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. And the Park 55 is not too far from not too far from the Tenderloin. So, and you know what's going on in that neighborhood.
Exactly. Both cities, all of the cities in California have been drastically affected by first the COVID. That should have put things on hold for 5 years. You know what I'm really upset about, and I got to get this in here, is the kids growing up who are 10, 11, 12 years old. They've been through fandom a little bit, and they've gotten autographs, and their players are what they are, but worshipped by the kids, the team, and all of a sudden the team is gone. I equate it with first the Braves moving from Boston, that in your experience, and with me, the Giants and Dodgers moving from New York. It's disastrous. People don't realize what it does to the spirit of a city.
Absolutely. I just remember, I was thinking about that today. I was 14 when the Braves left Boston in the spring of 1953. They had, my first game my dad took me to was the Braves versus the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't remember which year it was, but it was in the 47 or 48, something like that. And for you, I know that you were 10 or 11 years old when the Dodgers and the Giants moved away. And you listen to the games on the radio and watch the games on TV. You read about them in the paper. So I followed the Braves, I followed the Red Sox, and it was devastating to have the Braves moved away. And I'm sure you felt the same way when the Giants and the Dodgers moved away. The Dodgers were the heart and soul of Brooklyn, and the fans in Brooklyn felt, not only the kids, the adults, they felt that the heart and soul was ripped out of the borough of Brooklyn. And it took a long time, if ever, for fans to get over how they felt betrayed by Walter O'Malley.
And I just want anybody out there listening to know that as terrific as the Mets have been of late with Steve Cohen as Uncle Steve is the new owner, open pocketbooks, humanity in ownership, it's all great. It will never be the same as a Brooklyn Dodger New York Giant rivalry under any circumstances. It was, you couldn't describe it. And for you to have lost the Braves and to see them come into their own in the 50s, Del Crandall, Billy Bruton, all these guys, Matthews and Spahn, Aaron, it's just a terrific team. To lose them, I equate that with, as you say, me losing the Giants. And again,
the Dodgers had been so good up until the Dodgers from 1920 to 1941 they weren't really good. In 41 they won a pennant, and then the war interceded. But after the war, starting in 1947, the Dodgers went to the World Series in 47, 49, 52, 53, 55. In 56, my God, they were really, and they played the Yankees every year, and they won their only World Championship in 1955. And as at that time, by that time, the Braves had gone. I was a Red Sox fan, and then we were rooting for the Dodgers or the Giants to beat the Yankees in the World Series. So
it's amazing.
We followed them. Yeah.
In a pennant race, you could root for the team that you hate the most, depending on who they're playing, to benefit you the most.
Sure.
That's an interesting part of baseball. I'd root for the Dodgers against the Yankees in those days, but not really. I didn't really consider myself having a rooting interest. I did consider it my birthright to have the World Series played in my hometown of New York. every year.
Oh, was it ever?
Yeah.
Was it ever? The 1948, it didn't happen in 48 because the Braves played the Cleveland Indians, but in 49, 50, 51, I can't keep track. There was
the way
a World Series in Brooklyn until 1964 was the last year, from 47 to 64. There was something like 17 years that there was one of the New York teams was in a World Series.
Exactly.
Amazing.
And then when the Dodgers moved to top off the misery in 1959, they won the pennant.
They won the World Series over the White Sox.
The World Series. Yes. Had Mark Cameron as a guest. His dad was a member for a short period of time of the 59 White Sox. So that was very interesting, and that was a terrific guest. Baseball is the thread that brings it together. And I guarantee you there will be some kids that will be embittered by the loss of the A's over the next 20 years of their lives and more.
I'm sure. The kids that are A's fans, they have a choice in San Francisco, like you had in New York, like I had in Boston, and you didn't have to be you could be both. You could be an A's fan and a Giants fan because they were in different leagues and they didn't necessarily play against each other, for championship rights or that type of thing. But within a league play, there was a little bit more of you could see the Giants in Oakland, and then the Oakland fans could go to San Francisco to see them play. But there was only 4 games a year, something like that. So it wasn't a huge rivalry. So you could be both.
I just want to interrupt you before I forget to make one note. The Giants are making and have made a major marketing blunder by not appreciating the A's, because when they both do well, it brings attention to both teams. And let's talk about 1989 when they both won, the year of the earthquake. How much were they drawn? Each team.
Oh, in '89, the Giants were still in Candlestick that year, but I know that the A's drew about 2.7 to 2.9 million people, and I think the Giants drew about the same. So that was about 5.8 million people. Close to 6 million people attended baseball games in the Bay Area that year.
With lousy ballparks.
With lousy ballparks.
And it served both cities well to have the rivalry going. So I think in the future, because it's up and down, whether you win or lose, a team doesn't always win, team doesn't always lose, unless you're the recent A's and they've sold off. Oh, man, we could talk about prospects and players they've sold off. What got me this year was they let Murphy go, the catcher.
Oh yes, and I did the game yesterday at the Coliseum, and I was very pleased to have the veteran broadcaster Joe Starkey sitting next to me yesterday, and Joe and I talked. That was nice, and he was on my left, and 2 seats over was Ed Montague, the umpire, National League umpire. He had been the head of the umpires before he retired, and I had great baseball talks with both of those guys yesterday, and they both said the same thing about the current A's franchise. They sold off all their players, and it looks like they were doing this to make it possible for them to make the move because the A's are off to their worst start, I thought, since the 1951 Philadelphia A's. But it says going back to 1899, this is the worst start in the Athletics history, whether it be Philadelphia, Kansas City, or Oakland. Yesterday in their lineup, there was not one player that started with the team that was on the opening day roster in 2022. They had a couple players. They had a couple players in the lineup that came to the team later in the year, like Shea Langoliers and Connor Capel, who was called up later in the season last year. But all the players were Estuary Ruiz came over in a trade. Aledmus Diaz was signed as a free agent. Jesus Aguilar was a free agent. So the A's are made up of prospects and veterans on the way out, or players that they signed for 1 year, and the player's hoping to get some playing time so he can rebuild his career and sign on with someone else next year. And
Jerry, is there one prospect that stands out in your mind, either from talking to people or seeing him in person or getting an idea of what the player is like? Is there one prospect, just one, that excites you?
Well, yesterday the pitcher, Mason Miller, 6'5" guy, 220 pounds. He came in. The A's signed him. He had electric stuff yesterday. He had 15 pitches in the game. He threw 81 pitches. He had 15 pitches in the game that were 100 miles an hour or more. He had a couple that were 102 miles an hour. He went 4 and a third innings. He was on a pitch count. They were only going to let him go 80 pitches. He went 81 pitches. He went 4 and a third innings and allowed just 2 runs and I think 3 hits or 4 hits. He was just electric, and that was good to see. And then when the bullpen, he left the game. The A's were trailing 2-1. They tied it up. But then the bullpen from the 5th inning on gave up 10 runs to the Cubs. The A's pitching has an ERA, a team ERA of over 7. I think it's around 7.34 as a team. The bullpen is atrocious. The hitting, the A's had 2 hits on Tuesday and 4 hits yesterday. In the 3 games with the Cubs, the offense produced 3 runs. They lost 11-1 on Monday. They lost 4-0 on Tuesday, and then they lost 12-2 yesterday. So the Cubs scored 27 runs in the 3 games, averaged 9 runs a game, and the A's averaged 1 run a game. So that's how bad the offense was. That's how bad the pitching was.
Plus, they're moving. Not a good week for news. Let me ask you this, though. You were excited about running into Michael Duca, who was our guest last time, and the 3 of us have done a lot of airtime, and he mentioned to you that he wants to do more shows with us.
Yeah, he said he'd like to do that. Michael was the official scorer, and I think the Giants are in town tonight. I think he's working the Giants game tonight. I don't think the Giants have an off day today. Well, maybe they do. They were in Miami yesterday, so it's hard to say. But anyway, yeah, Michael would like to do it, and we talked about his wife's condition and how she's doing, and she's been undergoing cancer treatment, and the chemotherapy is knocked the starch out of her, but they've ended for the time being, they ended the chemo treatments, and they're going to monitor her every 3 months and see how things go for her. And that's where they're at on that.
You just got to hope for the best with something like that. And
absolutely.
just also, I don't have to tell you or Michael or even remind myself sometimes, you got to live every day as if it's the last and most important, because someday it will be, and there are no guarantees. I heard the best. That's Kelly Dugas. Giant fans are familiar with her. She runs, what is it, the concessions or?
Yeah, she has a lot of the stadium personnel working for her. The ushers. She controls the ushers and a lot of the. I don't know.
Yeah,
her
not concessions per se. That might be under her wing, but salaried employees in the Giants ballpark are under her command, as it were. And isn't it nice that they both have the Giants pictures of the two of them with the World Series paraphernalia, is nice to see. Jerry, thank you for being.
Just one last thing, Ralph. Yesterday's game, they had a relatively good attendance for the A's. They had over 12,000 people. The bad thing, that was the good news. The bad news was the fact that most of the people, or at least half the people, were wearing Cubs paraphernalia. They were Cubs fans. I have to tell you, the difference between the two ballparks, I went to one game. I was covering the A's one game earlier this year, and the announced attendance was 4,900 people. I don't think there was 4,900. It was 4,900 paid. Maybe there was 4,000 or 3,500 people in the ballpark. You get this big cavernous ballpark with nobody in it. It's depressing, and it's got to be depressing for the players to go out there and to try and do their best, and there's nobody out there watching them. And then I went over to the second game of the season over at Oracle Park in San Francisco, and I go in there, and of course I had a nice experience because our friend Eric Gray's daughter runs the elevator to the press box, and so I went in there, and her name is Rachel, and I said, "Hi, Rachel. You don't know me, but I know your dad." And, we did a couple of lunches with your dad and really enjoyed being with him. So that was kind of nice. But anyway, you get off the train.
And you didn't say, "You don't know me, little girl, but I know you."
No.
You didn't
I didn't say
that.
Little girl. No.
Good. You wouldn't you don't have to embarrass the station or anything.
Right. But there's a buzz.
People don't know. You are so articulate. Tell the audience how old you are.
84.
84 years old. You're my hero. I'm right behind you, and I'd like to have your pipes and your memory and your articulation when I'm 84. But I don't have it now, so there's really no hope for me. Jerry, finish up.
Sir.
You're doing it.
Well, I just wanted to make the comparison. When you go to Oracle Ballpark and you're out in front of Willie Mays Plaza, there's a buzz in the crowd, just like there's a buzz at Fenway Park. When you go to Fenway Park, they have all the vendors outside. There's people milling about, getting ready to go into the ballpark. Same thing at Oracle Park. There's restaurants around there. There's bars around there. There's an excitement, and there's just a joy to go there. And then when you go inside the ballpark, 40,000 people are in the ballpark cheering for your team. You go to Oakland, very few concessions. The stadium is run down. In the press box over the weekend, there's a story. Gary Cohn and Ron Darling, the Mets announcers, were in the TV booth, which is about where I sit in the press box. 3 seats over from the TV booth. I can see the broadcasters working. And had I gone, of course, I knew Ron Darling when he was with the A's. Would love to have seen him again, but I wasn't able to go last weekend. So they had the possum. There's a possum was in the press box, and apparently the possum had pooped in the possum, and they had to move out of the press box. Well, yesterday when I was at the game, nobody's sitting in the press box. They had a candle in there, I guess, to mask the scent of the possum. We weren't visited. We weren't visited by the possum yesterday, and the smell wasn't there. But I mean, these are the things that go on in the Oakland Coliseum. You go to the Giants; it's a first-rate operation. It's top of the line operation. A beautiful city, beautiful.
Plus, they have diapers. They have diapers on the possums, so it's it's an added expense, but it's nice for the ambiance. Jerry, what do you like and what don't you like about the rule changes?
Oh, the rule changes. Oh, there was an incident yesterday. There was a clock violation on Aledmus Diaz, called third strike. And then Marcotte came out and said, he was arguing about it and said the guy was in the batter's box. Why are you calling him out? And he got tossed. And there was someone got a walk on a clock violation. So it's happening. I'm not crazy about those things, but the game with all the scoring, the game went 2 hours and 58 minutes yesterday, almost 3 hours. But it has speeded up the game. It makes it a lot more interesting for the fans so that they have to pay attention. I remember back when Nomar Garcia-Parra came in, he used to spend 2 minutes just adjusting his batting gloves and drive everybody crazy. The Red Sox-Yankee games would go 4 hours because the pitches are taking all day to throw a pitch. The batters are stepping out of the batter's box, adjusting their gloves. All that stuff is gone. I think Ed Montague was telling me when he was an umpire when he first started, the batters never stepped out of the batter's box, or just occasionally. They were ready to hit, and the pitchers were ready to throw. So just different times, and so that's nice. More stolen bases. There were a couple caught stealings yesterday, but the players are running to get the extra base. The athletes, the players are showing their athletic skills. The second baseman made a terrific play on a ball hit up the middle made a 4-3 second baseman to first baseman play. That was outstanding. So you're seeing some baseball now. You're going to see hit and run. You're going to see bunting. You're going to see stolen bases. It's made it better.
Good. That's a good positive statement. And I want to end on a negative statement. What are the odds of Las Vegas? I mean, just 50-50 of it being final someday, 80-20, that kind of thing. Just in a general idea. We won't hold you to it in today's day and age.
Right now it's 80-20. It's Las Vegas 80-20. And with the city of Oakland giving up with their negotiations, I think it's all over. But we'll see. You never know. Things could change, but don't hold your breath.
Okay. A lot of things I'm not holding my breath over, Jerry. So this is just one of them. Life is what it is. It's a mixed bag of nuts. Get as many cashews as you can, Jerry, as is your want. Love you, my man.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. It's a pleasure.
Okay, pleasure for me too. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, Jerry Feitelberg, the best guest I got today. Let's put it that way. Well, actually, you tied with Jeff Coleman today. I had a wonderful show with him, and it's good life for both of us, Jerry. Stay healthy.
Okay, Ralph. You too. And we'll do lunch pretty soon in Alameda. Don't know when,
Absolutely.
but we'll come up. Okay.
Well,
take care.
I'm here all the time. Come by the backyard and watch me with my pitchback machine.
There you go. I'm ready.
All right. I can't wait to have you for lunch. Be well, my friend.
Will do.
Thanks for listening, everybody. As I say, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, Jerry Feitelberg is the guest, and I'm Ralph Tycho, the weak link of it all. Adios and happy trails.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.